Billiken fans, welcome back. It's Zach Miller and Peter Hale. It's the Midtown Madness Podcast. Before we get going, thank you so much for listening. And if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button as well as the bell down below. Get notified whenever a new episode drops. This episode and the whole season of the Midtown Madness Podcast is brought to you by Two Men and a Garden. Whether you like it mild or hot, chunky or cantina style, the people at Two Men have you covered. Pete, I have it on good authority that John Bell enjoys the Two Men in a Garden salsa. And I also have it on good authority, John Bell being the track and field head coach at SLU, that he only knows about Two Men because of our podcast. That's I'm just quoting here my source. So there's St. Louis through and through, much like everyone knows I am, and they're going to go great with March Madness and especially a Billiken women's March Madness game, Pete.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me that John Bell enjoys it. He's a man of good taste. I also like to think that the Two Men in a Garden investment in us has paid off. If nothing else, I've certainly bought plenty of their stuff since they started sponsoring us. But yeah, I can't wait to check out this women's game. And if I don't make it down there, which we'll get into, I will be enjoying some at home on the couch while I watch it.
And don't forget to like or follow them on all social media at Two Men Salsa on Insta and Twitter. You can also pick up their many products at twomeninthegarden.com or in your local grocery store. Peter, it's a great day in a lot of ways to be a Billiken. It's also a brutal day to be a Billiken in a lot of ways. Let's start with the good first. Let's give people the good news they want to hear first.
Yeah, let's. If anything, we're used to by now. Being a Billiken fan is a bittersweet experience, but yes, you're right. Let's start with the sweet.
The Billiken women are in the NCAA tournament for the first time, and I got to tell you, the bracket was like, all right, kids, welcome to the NCAA tournament. Here's the most storied program in women's basketball history.
Welcome to the show. You're going to Tennessee. You're going to Knoxville, Tennessee. And even if this isn't the invincible Pat Summitt-led Tennessee teams that it drew so many people into women's college basketball in the first place, they're still really good. They're a 4 seed. They're a ranked team. They're an SEC team. They just knocked off one of the top teams in the country last week. They're really good, and we've got to play them at their place with all of those banners hanging from the ceiling. But Zach, all things being considered, this is not a bad draw at all. Getting a 13 seed, getting a 4 seed, getting to play against a 4 seed is maybe more favorable than a lot of people expected.
Yeah, absolutely. I think. I know I got texts that were it's going to be 215 Iowa, and as soon as I texted somebody, I was like, "We're going to be the last team picked." And we were, or not the last team picked, but the last team to be announced.
Right.
Yeah. And of course, as soon as I said that, the Billikens came across the screen. It was so great to see the celebration inside Lorenzini's. I can't believe we're sitting here and we have Billiken women's basketball on March 18th.
18th is the game. Yeah.
Yes.
It's incredible. I mean, at the beginning of the season, never would I have expected this. It's truly a kind of pinch me moment. It's funny too, Zach, because the very last game announced in this tournament, it was Iowa, the 2 seed, and they will have Southeastern Louisiana. That was the last one that they actually announced on the selection show. But no, SLU is in the Seattle 3 bracket. It's kind of different this year. There's only 2 regions, and they're splitting them up. So there's Greenville 1 and Greenville 2 in South Carolina, Seattle 3 and Seattle 4. We were Seattle 3, about halfway down. And if the SLU women should advance, they'll take on the winner of Iowa State and Toledo, the 5-12 game, which will also be held in Knoxville, Tennessee, because the sites for the first 2 rounds are at the top 16 seeds facilities. So Tennessee will host those first two games along with, you know, the winners of the 4 and 5 games. So pretty incredible stuff. Would you say Knoxville is what, 7 hours from St. Louis?
That's what it said to the University of Tennessee. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if I will be making this one. You know, I got things I gotta do here, so I don't think I can pull this one off.
This is not actually impossible for me. You know, the thing, like everything else in my life these days, the thing that makes this difficult is kids and whatever they might have going on next weekend. But that's a 4-hour drive south of Cincinnati, and we've been to Knoxville a lot. My wife really likes the town. You know, we know the place well. We're comfortable with it. So this is definitely one. When she gets back in town from a work thing this week, I'm gonna be talking to her and seeing if we can pull this off, but no guarantees.
This, you know, I think it's interesting because so much was made of Rebecca Tillett and the psychological kind of work that this team has done, the mindfulness, the coach she brought in to do well, really, she created a position and you know, it's sports psychology in a lot of ways, I think in most ways. And this will really be a test for that, Pete.
It will. And look, the one thing that we kept saying over and over as they made their way through the A10 tournament and knocking off the top teams in there, beating UMass twice in the last couple of weeks of the season, beating Rhode Island 1 out of 2 times at the end. It seems like they really don't fear anyone right now. And I know that's not necessarily the point of all of the mindfulness talk and the exercises that they do.
Not so much that they don't fear anyone, they don't fear any situation.
That's right. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. And they also, she talked about at one point in an interview during that final game against UMass, there was a point in a timeout where everyone was screaming, and she just like got them all to stop, take a breath, calm down, and the energy was totally different on the way out of the timeout than it was coming into the timeout. And that's the kind of thing that that you really need as a 13 seed playing a blue blood in your first ever NCAA tournament appearance. A lot of the teams in kind of that 13 to 16 space are teams that are not very tested against a tough schedule. I think actually one of the reasons SLU is a 13 and not a 15 based on its 500 record, right, coming into the tournament, is because they did play a tougher schedule in non-conference than most of these teams have. And I think they're given a lot of credit for the way that they finished this season. That's a really deceptive 17-17 record. This isn't a team that kind of, you know, was up and down all season long. It's really a huge arc that they're on right now over the course of this season. And I just they seem like they're so locked in right now. I gotta say, like, if I'm Tennessee, I don't love this draw, right? No. I mean, like, this is not. There are, when you look around this bracket, there are other 13s that don't have quite the same trajectory. And maybe, yeah, a lot of these teams did win their conference tournaments, but not quite that at this level. You know, Cleveland State they're a really good team. They've won a lot of games. They haven't played a very hard schedule. Sacramento State, this is their first ever tournament, and they're going to play UCLA, who's a really good UCLA team this year. East Carolina is the other one. I just love what SLU has done lately and against a little bit tougher schedule overall this season. And yeah, their mentality is really locked in.
Pete, let's get into kind of, and we're going to try to release another episode, maybe Wednesday or Thursday, just a little 30-minute. Bring in Colin Surrey. We haven't talked to him in a minute, and I'd love for him to come on here and tap dance all over the fact that he called this shit months ago.
We'll let him have his day.
Yes. But you look at what, and we're going to try to get some from Tennessee as well. But this, we're going to get way into it then, but like this Tennessee roster is big, my dude.
It is. And yeah, look, we just got this as we record this. We just found out about 20 minutes ago. who we're playing. So obviously we really haven't had time to dig into the notes here. But when you're looking at this lineup, their top four in terms of scoring production, right? 6'2", 6'2", 6'1", 6'5", and that's two seniors, a junior and a sophomore. Their fifth player is a senior too. She's a 5'8" guard. And then they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or 7 6-foot plus players on the bench. It's a huge team. They go really deep. They've got a lot of experience. I'm counting 6 or 7 seniors here. Yeah, there's a lot to kind of open your eyes here. I mean, like look, the SEC is on kind of a different level right now in women's college basketball. LSU was really good all season. I know they actually stumbled at the end against Tennessee. Tennessee's number 3 in the SEC. South Carolina is about as good a women's team as I've ever seen. Incredibly deep, amazing amount of size. So this is the kind of roster, right, that Tennessee has that it takes to be competitive in that conference. It starts with Rakia Jackson, who's a 6'2" senior forward, 19.6 points per game, 6.2 rebounds. And then Jordan Horston, who's also 6'2", plays more of a wing though. She's averaging 15.5 points a game and 7 rebounds. It's just incredible. That much size, that much production out of two players that are 6'2" forwards. I mean, that's a lot, Zach. And I mean, we know that look, we've got Brooke Flowers down there, but certainly size and rebounding are admitted deficiencies on this team, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think, size, we turn it over 17.3 times a game. Tennessee, what did I see? About 14 or 15. I think, yes, they do have the size, but again, you've got players like Ken Calhoun, Julia Martinez, that are a little undersized, but have just the quickest hands. Camry Clegg's a bit of the same. So I think there's a lot of places where the Billikens can kind of use that undersized nature to their advantage.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, like, look, they're giving up a lot in the front court. There's no doubt about it. Tennessee, they're 5th in the nation in terms of inside the perimeter field goals per game. They're top 20 in the nation in terms of how much they're getting done inside the arc, right? Their overall field goal percentage is really good. They're one of the best rebounding teams in the country, which is like enough to make you scared right there.
I mean, without the way we were rebounding in the tournament.
Yes. Yeah. So look, just imagine what that looks like against not one of the best rebounding teams in the A10, but in the nation. This is that's how they're going to win this game. Tennessee, this is how they're going to try and win this game. It's all going to be about that front court, about pushing it inside. Maybe you get Brooke Flowers in foul trouble or something like that. Just take advantage of the fact that we just don't have a lot of size, a lot of depth down there. And I'm interested to see what kind of game plan Tillett draws up to deal with that very, very obvious disadvantage. And you really hope, Zach, I mean, that this is a game where the guards have brought their shot, right? This can't be a game where McMakin goes 3 for 19. It's got to be.
I think she needs to recognize the moment too, and not.
Yeah.
That is, again, mindfulness. Realize that we're in this moment, but maybe the game doesn't necessarily call for a McMakin game. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, that's right. I mean, like, think of how many games we had down the stretch where Camry Clegg would hit 3 threes in a row. Peyton Kennedy really kind of is an X factor in this game to me. If she can kind of get free, get open on the perimeter a little bit, I think she's somebody who can really hurt them.
Looking at the Lady Vols road through the SEC tournament, Kentucky, St. Joe, same thing. What's that? LSU, Rhode Island, same thing. I see no difference between UMass and South Carolina. It's, they have the same coach on the men's side. I don't know.
Exactly. The one thing I will say, so Tennessee did have that win in the semifinals of the SEC against LSU, who's number 4 at the time. That was their only win over a ranked opponent this season. They played a tough schedule, but they lost to Ohio State, Indiana, Virginia Tech, Stanford, South Carolina twice, LSU once, and UConn. They lost to all of those teams this season, all the ranked teams they played. And they do have some losses as well to teams that weren't ranked at the time, UCLA, Gonzaga. So this is not, they're not invincible, right? Like they're ranked toward the bottom of the rankings right now. They're 23rd, I believe. And they kind of are the team that beats the teams below them and maybe doesn't beat the teams ahead of them, with the one exception this season. That's kind of been interesting to me. They aren't the Tennessee of old. They are beatable, certainly. And the one common opponent we do have with them is UMass. But the trick here is they played UMass back on November 10th, right? They played them at home, but they only beat them by 9. You know, who knows? Like, think about how different we are from that point in the season. So that doesn't really tell a whole story, but at least that's one comparable where you go, oh, they beat UMass by 9. You know, we've beaten UMass. This isn't, you can get to a place where, like, this is at least within the realm of possibility. They're going to be the heavy favorite. It's a tall order. And I hate that was a pun right there. I didn't mean that. But this is it's a really difficult matchup, even if it is kind of a favorable seed overall for SLU in the tournament.
I think it's interesting because, I mean, this SLU team really, again, I think I said it on the last one. This isn't a fluke out of them. This is a team that, for all intents and purposes, was playing like a top 50 team at the end of the year. They were playing.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a team that has a core of NCAA tournament appearances in McMakin, in Kennedy Calhoun,
Bree Johns.
Did Bree John? Those are the ones I don't know. I just know that Longwood made it last year. So you've got players that have NCAA tournament experience that were big parts of NCAA tournament games last year. And you've got a coach who's been there. You know, you mix in Julia Martinez and Brooke Flowers, both who are putting up preposterous numbers, nationally speaking. All it took was them to come together. I mean, you looked at how many, and unfortunately, the women's team did what the men couldn't.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Flowers is going to need to have the game of her life, right? I mean, she's going to need to stay out of foul trouble. She's going to have the best rebounding game she's ever had. Their bigs are going to be a little bit more physical than she is, if not necessarily longer. So she's going to not let them, push her around necessarily. But Julia Martinez, Zach, is really the difference maker to me in this game, because we talked about last time the things that she does between the free throw lines to disrupt a game, to create chaos, to create turnovers, to make plays in transition. That's all going to need to happen in this game. Our shooters cannot have an off night. Martinez and everybody else, they got to stay out of foul trouble, but really she's got to create havoc out there. To borrow a term, a well-worn term in the A10. But that's the kind of thing where if she can string some steals together and we can make some plays out of that, that's the kind of thing that's going to frustrate a Tennessee and actually keep SLU in this one.
Yeah, I think, that, what is it? Reverse high press or whatever, counter press.
Sure.
I think that, if we miss a shot, I think trying like hell to get it back right away.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And if they beat us in transition, we, be as aggressive as possible and, hope for the best.
Yeah.
I think, but in a lot of we say that, we sit here and we joke about how throw the kitchen sink and hope it's good enough. But again, this Billiken team is not the team that lost to Loyola Chicago in any way, shape, or form.
That's 100% true. I mean, and look, there's a stratification in women's basketball that's a little more stark than it is in the men's game, right? Like the difference between 25 and 50 is greater in the women's game. The difference between 50 and 100 is greater. But when you say SLU is playing like a top 50 team, that's true. I mean, UMass and Rhode Island were both kind of in that 50-60 range before they both lost a couple of games at the end. they were kind of in that spot, and in at least if you believe the metrics, the net and some of the other numbers, that's kind of where they were. And then SLU beat them 3 out of 4 times. So we know it's possible to at least be competitive in that neighborhood, right? We haven't been tested in a long time against teams better than that, though. Like, we haven't seen a top 25 team. SLU played Baylor earlier this year. They played some really tough teams early on, but it's been a long time, and they're a much different team now. So I do wonder what that looks like. And I can't wait to see what kind of game plan Coach Tillett has for this team. But they need to play their best game. I mean, there are times in the A10 where we've gone, wow, you shoot that bad and you still pull out a win, or you don't rebound that well and you still pull out a win. That can't happen in this game. Everything's got to be on.
Yeah, for sure. I'm pumped. I want to know what time Saturday already. I'm ready to go, and it's going to be a fun Saturday. Hopefully they win, dude. I think this team has it in them, and it would be truly unbelievable to those who have been religiously following this team over the past couple months.
I would guess that this is if the Iowa State Toledo game is the 5-12, I would guess that's the first game. Whether these are afternoon or evening games, I would think that this has to be the second one, right? So I don't know exactly what those times are going to be. It still says TBA on the bracket, but I got to think this is going to be a little bit later in the day.
Who's Captain Tibbet? Never mind. Never mind. It's TBD, to be determined. Never mind. That's a Mighty Ducks 3 reference. You're welcome.
Yeah, that's for nobody. All right.
It's for like one person I know who listens to this show. Peter, we're gonna move on to the bad news of the week.
Yeah, men's basketball. Look, it wasn't all bad news, like that first game.
We had him in the first game, not gonna lie.
First game, and we had that giving us quite a sense of confidence, honestly. I mean, I felt pretty good on that Thursday night and Friday, heading into that last game.
Yeah, they looked like a team that figured it out.
Yeah. So how do we want to do this, Zach? Do we want to recap the tournament and kind of how we got there and then circle back to SLU's games, or what?
Yeah. We'll just stop when we get to the QFs.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, at least we have avoided, the first 2 rounds in this one.
Yes. Not since Jim Cruz have we seen a pillow fight.
Oh, that is true.
Wait, did we have a pillow fight in Ford's first year? I don't remember.
I don't recall. I can't remember.
It does not matter. It does not matter. Tuesday night pillow fight. That's a Tuesday pillow fray. Richmond 71, UMass 38 in an absolute destruction. Number 10, shocking. The 10th seeded St. Joe's beat Loyola 72-67. LaSalle, number 11 seed, beat the 14 seed Rhode Island 73-56. And I love that these scores go in order, the winning scores 71, 72, 73.
Yes. Yeah, that's great.
Just like, is there anything to say about the pillow fight?
No, I mean, just that all the stronger seeds won. Richmond beating UMass by that much was something, honestly, LaSalle beating Rhode Island by 17, I didn't necessarily see coming. So it's kind of been interesting this season in a year in the A10 in which nobody really distinguished themselves. I mean, arguably VCU, but nobody else really distinguished themselves. This was I think the chalkiest A10 tournament we've ever seen. The only 2, and we'll get to these now, the only 2 lower seeds to win were St. Joe's and LaSalle, 10-7, 11-6. Every single other game, the stronger seed won.
And those were convincing wins in both games.
Yeah, very much so.
Davidson 65, St. Bonaventure 54, George Mason 62, Richmond 57. St. Joe's,
Richmond, by the way, completely choked in that one down the stretch. That's who we wanted. That's who we thought we'd have.
And either way,
Yeah.
I just this freaking team. Um, St. Joe's 87, George Washington 76, and LaSalle upsets Duquesne 81-70. I don't know if I've ever seen a program that has more optimism than Duquesne every year. Like they're the one program that everybody loves to talk about for no reason.
It's weird too because they were picked to finish last. They turned out to be much better than that. And then everybody was like, "Oh, we're actually good." And then no, they crashed pretty hard in this tournament.
First quarterfinal on Thursday, VCU beat Davidson by 18. And then the Billikens decide to follow that one up with an absolute just punch in the face effort against George Mason, 82-54. I will say I was very nervous for the first about 4 minutes of this game.
Really, it was more than 4 minutes. It was more like 14 minutes because this was tied 25 apiece with 6:50 left to play before things really clicked. But it was a pretty shaky start. I mean, the way that they played the rest of the game kind of makes you forget that. But like nobody scored in this game for the first 2 minutes. Then Mason winds up hitting 3 early 3-pointers to lead. They were leading by 4, I think, after that third one. It was like 13-9. And we were like, oh God, here we go again. Is somebody just going to shoot the lights out against us? And then you had Yuri kind of, I think he went 1 for 5 early in this game. He was just kind of settling for those mid-range jumpers. And Mason was happy to let him shoot those. So then, Mason's shooting over 60% for a while and just could never put SLU away. I think their biggest lead was 6 when it was 15-9. And then all of a sudden, under 7 minutes, SLU breaks the tie with a 12-0 lead, and that was that. They just ran away with it.
I mean, the ball, like, I think the biggest positive I saw in this game, not that it even matters at this point, but it was and I can't believe I'm saying that because like we should be in, like, this team should have made the NCAA tournament. Starting, like, I don't care what happened this season. Like, this team had enough talent regardless of losing Fred Thatch. It just, but the ball movement in this one was excellent. I thought, Pickett again showed up, especially in this tournament. He looked like about the only one that didn't want to go home in the second game too, in the semifinal. But I mean, there was a master class on just limiting Oduro in this one.
It really was. Anytime, I mean, they went to that zone a lot in the first half, and anytime Oduro touched the ball inside the perimeter, he would have at least 2 guys collapse on him. And Pickett was great at kind of being the second guy into the fray on that. Okoro stood his ground, or Forrester when he was in there. They'd have a guard in there to kind of disrupt things a little bit and swipe at the ball. Really got to him. They had a great game plan. They executed it. They didn't get away from it. A lot of times we've seen SLU kind of pull something off like that in the first half. And then that guy, whether it's Oduro or Burton, for example, on Richmond, in the second half, they'll just go off. And we'll kind of forget everything that was working against him. But they, to their credit, it worked. They really had a nice plan on him. And then you said the ball was really moving. Once Yuri decided to stop kind of trying to score and move the ball around, remembering that he was that point guard, the rest of the team moved the ball around. I mean, he had his usual 10 assists in this one, but SLU had 26 assists, and that tied an A10 tournament record for most assists in the A10 championship. I mean, that was a great team effort to really get things clicking on the offensive end.
It's this Billiken team to go from that effort to the next one.
I tweeted out, this was you used the word masterclass because that's what it was by Travis Ford, by the SLU team. I mean, they had such a clear, defined game plan that they stuck with, that they executed, that worked. And then they played VCU, and you would have thought that this team was scrimmaging and had not practiced yet for this season, based on how they played in that game. It was just incredible. Everything they did against Mason worked. I mean, as soon as, once they kind of got into their rhythm.
Yeah, I want to talk about the press and the zone and the whole defensive plan. You know, I just don't understand how you don't stick with that. When it's worked every freaking time you've implemented it.
Stick it with it across games, like into other games. Yeah, because I thought they were pretty good about how they deployed it in this one. It wasn't a super aggressive press either, right? It was just to kind of slow them up.
Yeah.
And it had two effects. They got Mason to cough it up at least 3 times in a row on one stretch that I'm thinking about in the first half. But it was also forcing Mason to shoot really late in the shot clock, right? They were crossing the timeline a little bit later. They were, getting their offense going a little bit later. And it was really throwing off their rhythm and forcing them to kind of throw up shots late in the shot clock. It was brilliant in that sense. It really, really worked. So you're saying, should they have done the same thing against VCU a little more?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't, like, of course, and especially once Okoro went out. I think one of the things you don't think about when you're talking about the press is it takes a lot to get a post up. Like, it's not easy to put a post pass in there. And when you have to take almost all of the 10 seconds to get up the court, you have less time to get post touches. So when you have a guy like Forrester or Momo in there, press, because the longer that possession goes without a post touch, the absolute best. Like, and I think that helped limit Oduro in that game too. That they weren't able to get him the ball because they had to, create a shot. They had to figure something out quick, and it didn't involve posting.
That's a good point. Alleviate the pressure on your own big man, especially when you're down one of those guys. That's a really good point.
I just, it's. What do you think of the substitution in this one? Well, actually, let's talk about Jimerson, because honestly, to me, he's been the like, I want to say the most consistent player on this team. Across all facets of the game. What did you see from him in this game, and what did you like?
He was awesome. I think in every regard, he was great off the ball. He moved the ball really well. I think he wound up with 4 assists in this one. His passing was as good as it's ever looked to me. And I thought his shot selection was great too, which always matters here. He goes 8 for 13, 2 of 5 from 3, hits all 3 of his free throws. So he ends up with 21 points. But the stat that really stood out to me is, we win this game by 28. He's plus 33 in 34 minutes. I don't think anybody else on the team was more than plus 20. So that just really shows you kind of what he was bringing to this game. I thought everything he did in this game was really impressive.
We talked about Pickett again. He started him again, and I kind of predicted. I mean, I think anybody who saw how well he did against Dayton could have predicted that Pickett would once again get the start.
He deserved the start here. It was one of those kind of things like early on when people were, he's starting, Pickett's starting. That's kind of interesting. But early on in this game, when no one else was really scoring or getting it done, I think he had 7 points early. He was like 3 of 3 from the field. He had hit a 3. He was getting open. He was playing good defense on Oduro. As a secondary defender, he was playing good defense in general. It absolutely was the right call to start him in this game. He was very good.
Really, really promising stuff out of Larry Hughes Jr. in this one. He's not in our notes, but I mean, really, the Billikens took the lead and extended it against George Mason with Yuri Collins on the bench and Larry Hughes in the lineup. And then Larry Hughes stayed in when Yuri came back. And I think that shows how important he was and how much Travis Ford kind of got confidence in him through his play while Yuri was out.
Yeah, and confidence in himself too. Watching Hughes throughout the season really grow that confidence over the course of the year has been impressive. And I do like that look when he and Yuri are out there together because they're such different guards. He's
Mhm.
he's a long way from being a complete product as a college player. He's got a lot to work on, but he's shown enough this season, enough flashes that I'm really excited about him coming back next season as a scholarship player and being an integral piece of this rotation going forward. I think he allows us to do a lot of different things in the backcourt. And
Yeah, that
I really we called this out in the last couple of weeks, but defensively, he really is one of those guys who is more willing and able to kind of disrupt passing lanes, and he's got good quick hands on defense too. So there's a lot to build off there.
yeah, I'm hoping that this will signal a return. Well, we'll get into it. Oh, we'll get into that in a minute. But I definitely love that we'll have that defense on the roster next year.
Yeah,
Speaking of being on the roster next year, Sincere Parker, 10-15.
yeah. He look, the only note I had here is give him enough time and good things happen. He's instant offense, and he's fearless with the ball, but when you play him 3 to 6 minutes, you don't really see it, right?
Yeah.
He'll go out there and he'll probably go 0 for 2 from 3, turn it over, maybe get beat on a defensive assignment, and then he gets pulled. But when you give him some run, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, all right, we we get why we got this guy. You just gotta let him. You gotta let him play. You gotta let him shake off the rust. And I'm excited next year because we know he's going to be, the guy. We know 7 guys are leaving, and he's going to be more of an important piece. And look, if we hit it big in the portal, and there are some other key players coming in, no matter what we do, his role is going to be bigger next season, and that's exciting to me.
I think we expected a lot more out of George Mason, of course, with the game in whatever the hell that was, and the refs nearly cooked our goose.
Yeah,
And then Tate had to finish the game as head coach. I mean, honestly, I didn't think I've never thought that much of George Mason in general. They've done nothing since they've come to the conference. And I didn't think much about this team. I don't think much about Josh Adoro, to be honest with you. So I
I,
wasn't, I I thought we could beat them handily, and we did. Of course, I've thought that the Billikens could do a lot of things this season, and they've done very little of those things, Pete.
yeah. I mean, look, I did think with Mason winning 7 in a row and kind of, maybe I was just too hung up on what the women's team was doing and how well they were playing. And I don't think Mason was quite that good. I mean, they were beating a lot of teams by scoring 62 or so, and just playing good defense. But I did think they were going to give us more than they did. But as soon as SLU pulled off that 12-0 run, and I think it was 19-5 to close the first half, Mason just looked done. They just looked defeated. And this was one game where once the second half started, you could kind of see within the first 5 minutes that they weren't going to come back, that this was over. So credit to SLU for not letting them feel like they had a chance to get back in it. But also Mason just completely buckled. I didn't expect that. And you're right too about Oduro. Last season, I thought, the guy's a pro. He's going to be an NBA player eventually. This year, I didn't really see it as much. He seems to have regressed in my eye.
It was amazing that the announcers actually really called out Mason's bench, and usually I think that they kind of overreact. Announcers do when it comes to stuff like that, but that bench looked uninterested.
Yeah, I don't know what to say. I mean, like, one of the things that that we've been told about Mason all year with Kim English, and they always talk about his youth. I think he's technically the second youngest D1 coach right now. He's like what, 34, and there are a few different coaches who are 34, and he's
Don't
the youngest
remind me that, please.
Yeah, well, regardless, he gets all this credit as being so young and energetic and a good motivator and really knowing how to speak to these guys. And oof, I did not see that at all in this game at all. I mean, that was like the bottom of Jim Cruz, tank era SLU body language. What I saw out of Mason. I mean, they were just done. They were already on the bus home by the 12-minute mark of the second half.
Speaking about being on the bus already by the 12-minute mark, let's talk about our game against VCU.
Do we have to?
I mean, honestly, I think we need to, because I think it needs to be said that, you know, if this talent level can't compete against VCU, I'm not talking about beating them. If VCU beat us by like 2 or 3, 4,
Right. Yeah.
okay, this game wasn't 12 points close. The Yuri Collins was padding his stats at the end of the damn game.
I know. Yeah. This was,
Thanks for coming out, dude.
and look, like
You
we
turned the
got off,
ball over 10 freaking times in the first half.
we got off to a 5-0 start, and you kind of saw like, okay, all right, like we look poised. And it was amazing to me how fast the wheels just came off. And what I saw out of this team that was just not there at all against Mason, even when things were close, when things were a little touch and go early in that game, it was like a panic had set in. You could see it. You could just see it in their decision making, their ball handling, in the way that they were defending, the lack of communication. It was just panic that set in. And it's crazy to me too, Zach, because this is the third time we've seen VCU, right? Like, so number one, we know them well. We know exactly what they do by now. We've seen them 3 times, and those games were pretty recent. Like, this isn't a team we played months ago. We know them very, very well. And
there's
they're
literally
not,
there's literally footage on them, like this same style pressure. There's footage like going against us. How we
yes,
beat it.
yes, yeah. And it shouldn't just be the
It's
footage. It
on
should be in your
YouTube.
head.
I
Yeah.
posted it.
But it's also,
Go
this
watch
is
that film, Travis.
this is not the Havoc era VCU. Like, they don't press as hard. They don't trap as much. They don't create as many turnovers. That was like the chaotic 40 minutes of hell style basketball that, like, they're not really doing that anymore. Like, yes, they're a really good defensive team. Yes, they can create a lot of turnovers, but they're not that. They are not that team. And a team like ours that is full of 4th and 5th year players, guys who are 22 to 24 years old, should not buckle like that against this team. I mean, they were in a dead panic in this game.
How many times do you have to get the ball like stripped from behind, like poked out from behind, before you start like paying attention to that?
Or calling it out to your
Yes.
teammates, right? Like, we talk all year long, the lack of vocal leadership has been an issue. This is the kind of game where you need to be calling stuff out in real time to the guys that you're playing with on the floor. And instead, SLU turns it over 8 times in the first
They
8
went
minutes.
SIU on us.
Completely. Yeah. I mean, 8 turnovers in 8 minutes. And like, yeah, even though that slowed down, this was just a nightmare. And as soon as, look, I mean, you turn it over 8 times in the first 8 minutes, and then what happens? Francis Okoro comes down and lands on Jaden Nunn and twists his ankle. And I couldn't, in real time, I didn't catch it exactly, but on the replay, he very clearly twisted his ankle badly. Like
Yes.
as soon as I saw that replay, I was like, I don't think he's coming back today. Like, I don't think anything's broken. He's not like done forever. I mean, yes, he's graduating and moving on, but like, he will have the opportunity to still play basketball again. But like, he's not coming back in this game, and and if we won, he probably wouldn't have come back the next day.
I'm just glad it wasn't like that guy in the second season of Slam Ball that came down on the pad and his ankle just sideways.
Yeah, I mean, even though
Oh,
I can't say I watched enough Slam Ball to remember that specifically. We've seen that kind of injury before. It wasn't that, but he wasn't coming back, and that just added to the atmosphere of complete panic.
yeah. VCU shot the hell out of the ball
Oh
in this
God.
one. Again, I would love to actually talk to someone like that knows what they're talking about. I know enough to be dangerous, but like I never know if it's the closeout or it's the shot. Like, are we not defending it properly, or is VCU just shooting? Like, I never know. I really never know, Pete.
I think in this one there were a couple factors. I think number one, they were feeling it. They were hitting it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like there were contested threes that just went in, swish, like they were hitting shots. Ace Baldwin was really kind of setting the tone early. He wasn't like obviously he didn't have his 37-point game that he did a couple weeks ago, a couple games ago against them. It wasn't that, but
Did not
um
miss.
he in the early part of this game, no matter what you were kind of forcing him to do, he was happily hitting 15-foot fadeaway jumpers or whatever he needed to do. The bad news for us in this one is like, look, the first time we played them and he scored 37, there were only two other guys who really scored in that game. And you thought like, well, I guess, okay, if he's going to beat you, don't let anyone else beat you. But in this one, they went a lot deeper than just those top three guys. I felt like what's his name, Shriver, the big kid from West Virginia. He hit 3 threes, I think, in this one, and every single one of them felt backbreaking.
Mm-hmm.
Like they were all kind of at moments where you were like sizing up the scoreboard and the time and thinking like, oh, if we can string together some stops and then bang, Shriver would hit a three. Like his were all timed in that way. So that's really what happened here is I think they had 5 guys in double digits.
And
None and I
every,
was just gonna say Nunn and Johns got what they wanted. Watkins was solid. Deloach and Kern were fine. And then once you added Shriver's 3-pointers on top of that, this was a real team effort on their part. It wasn't just Baldwin going off.
yeah, and I think I think obviously the Billikens came out and you kind of make your own luck when it comes to loose balls and
Mm,
rebounding and all that stuff. And I just didn't think the Billikens brought the energy. And when you know you or the focus, you let one of those loose balls trickle out and it lands in a VCU player's hands outside the 3-point arc and bang, triple.
yeah.
And those are backbreaking.
When they turn
Those suck.
broken plays into gold, right? I mean, that
Yes.
they really know how to do that. To make you string together broken plays consecutively, and then they look just as discombobulated on the other end, but they're just, they're finding whatever gap there is in your defense to punish you. Look, like as much that went wrong in the first half, I think it does bear repeating that SLU was only down 5 at halftime.
Mm-hmm.
Like this was, we watched that first half, and after the first 2 minutes when we were up 5-0, you kind of like everything else kind of went wrong. And you're like, we're only down 5. I mean, if we can kind of calm down and you know, string some plays together and communicate and clean some of the stuff up, you never know. And then all they do is go on a 21-5 run to open the half, and it was a laugher from there.
Yeah, man, I really go back to the first couple of Perkins buckets in the first half, and I was like, oh boy, Perkins is cooking
Yeah,
today,
it felt like that.
and then he burnt the toast. 4 attempts by Jimerson the entire game.
Some of
Sure,
our worst performances have coincided with his lowest field goal attempt
yes.
numbers. I mean, that seems like a pretty obvious one to me. If they manage to take him out of the game and we just don't have a way to compensate for that.
At the end of the day, I think Jimerson will be the oh man, never mind. I'll leave that. Yuri, with me about ready, what I was about to admit to, um, is on par with this next note, that you wrote. Yuri finished with 12 points and 10 assists, 6 turnovers, got his 1,000th point, which I guess is something.
Yeah, and that's exactly how I felt when he was clearly chasing it in the second half of this game, right? I mean, it was just like, this game's out of hand. We're not trying anymore, but I only need 5 points, so I'm going to go get them. And it was like, cool, congrats, great. Like I've never felt worse about a guy getting his thousandth point. It's crazy that it came in his last game in a SLU uniform. There's something a little bit poetic about that.
And what was his last shot? Just absolutely got swatted.
Yeah, not just his last one. I think there were more
Well,
than that.
but it
Yeah.
was symbolic that it was a out of control drive that got just sent right back in his face.
Yeah,
I
I mean, that's been part of the conversation around the fan base lately, right? Is we keep hearing about these gaudy stat numbers, but they're not in service of winning games. And
correct.
that's what is just so killer to us. It's like, I would love to celebrate his numbers
Yes.
to anyone who will listen, but I can't because we're done playing basketball. Look, I guess the NIT shows in a half hour as we record this, but we're not going to be in it. We know that already. I would
I
love.
hope not. You know what? Okay, fine. You know what? I'll say it right now. Right freaking now. This isn't rooting for a loss. It's just rooting for us not to play. I don't
In the
want
end,
us to get a bid. I don't want any positive to come out of this season. I don't want anything that Chris May, Travis Ford, any of this coaching staff, any of the players can hang their hat on. I don't
yeah,
want
they need
anything.
the people who are coming back to this program need to be motivated. They need to have a fire in their belly. And look, the last couple times we made the NIT was kind of an embarrassment. We got killed by Northern Iowa. We got beat up by Mississippi State. I don't want to go back for an early exit against a good team again. And I feel like that's what would happen right now, especially with Okoro down, with these guys already looking at their next step. This is not a team that would win an NIT game, regardless of who it's against.
It was a weird box score. Well, I guess we'll talk about the bright spots. Of course, it's Hughes and Parker. Hughes 12 points in 16 minutes. Again, the kid's going to be good, and I love that he's a combo guard because we really need a guy who can ball handle and score at the same time and keep defenses honest. And I think Medley is a scorer first point guard as well, from what I understand. But he's, he does get his teammates involved too. And so I'm anxious to see that backcourt together. I would love to get us another pure point guard. I think Sion Medley could use some help as well. A more experienced, maybe not a gaudy stats guy, but a guy that can come in and just be solid and I play defense, man. We're going to get to that, but I thought Hughes's defense is a huge bright spot going forward, and I'm excited about him, and I'm excited about the way Momo played on defense.
Yeah, he was solid.
And Parker had a few highlight reels.
His first dunk was maybe the dunk of the game, and VCU had some pretty seriously nice ones too. So credit where credit is due, but I think I like the one from Parker the best. Perkins had 13 in this one. The way he was going early, we thought he'd have more. Pickett had 18, like you said before. He showed up to play in this tournament more than probably anybody else did. But it is weird, right? Like this box score, when you look at it, it's not horrible. There aren't many things to circle and you go, this is what went wrong. We shot fine. We only turned it over 7 more times after those first 8 minutes. They were out rebounded by 7, but there weren't that many like major problems here. It was just the fact that VCU set the tone. They executed a game plan. Quite frankly, they played harder. They beat SLU for the 3rd time this season. And that's just, to me, that's unacceptable. The effort was unacceptable. The body language was unacceptable. It was just not, it was not a good, solid veteran performance. And I don't know what happened to this team after looking so prepared, so sharp for most of that game against George Mason to come out the next day and be this bad. Was astonishing.
I guess we'll look a little forward. Postseason tournament, NIT CBI, not a chance in hell. We thought the NIT was the floor, the absolute floor. We crashed through that floor like we fell off the Empire State Building.
we were in a lot more rickety house than we thought we realized. If you told me coming into the season, if you said, look, the floor for this team is the NIT, I would have been like, that's unacceptable. Not this year. No, not this year. But we're now sitting around the 105 line or so in the net. I mean, that's not going to get you in the NIT. It's just not. And from what we're hearing, the CBI is likely already spoken for, and I just don't see this team as being particularly motivated to play in any of those games. And it's a shame, like I would have thought they all being this many guys who are all leaving next season, I would have thought they have all the motivation in the world to get to this NCAA tournament and to showcase themselves on the stage where everybody's paying attention, right? Because like nobody knows who you are in college basketball until you play in that tournament. And I thought these guys had so much incentive to do that. And with this much experience and ability to crash this hard is just so disheartening.
I got nothing else. I'm in the stages of grief,
I know.
like I said to you, I wanted to go to the NCAA tournament selection show for the women, that party. I'm in a state where I'm still so upset, and I'm not necessarily upset at the way this season went per se. I'm certainly not happy with it, right? It does not reach my goal for the program. It doesn't reach what I thought the athletic department's goal for the program is, what Travis Ford's goal for the program is, what other Billiken fans, the people on Billikens.com, people on SLU Twitter, the people that aren't online at all. It felt like the goal of this season was at large bid or bust. And this was certainly a bust to everyone with eyes.
Yeah.
Except for maybe one person.
Chris May earlier this week caused quite a kerfuffle among SLU fans because he told the media that and this is kind of the pull quote. It was part of a longer answer, but Travis has brought a level of talent here that can compete year in and year out, and he's going to be our coach for a long time. Now, in another interview a couple days later, Ford talked to some of those same media members. I think Frank and Stu and some of the local guys kind of all got the same lines here, but Ford said, no question, you want to go in and win every single game you play every year. You want to go 35-0 or whatever it is. That's what you're trying to do. We've won a lot of games. We've lost some games that were disappointing. No question about it. We've been far from perfect, to say the least, but there's been a lot of positives. These quotes, and they were before the George Mason game, to kind of put them in perspective of the timing and everything. These quotes were not well received by those of us who kind of pay the most attention to this program. I wouldn't say that was 100%. It wasn't universal. There are still people, on both sides of this issue, but by and large, these did not go over well.
There are good people on both sides, Peter.
That is true in this situation. But in this situation, I mean, one side is certainly very much outnumbered, I think.
Yeah.
And not really having it. And I wonder where you fall on this, Zach.
Man, it's insulting. I've made my feelings felt on Twitter, Spaces, Billikens.com. It's insulting to sit there and tell us that, this season has been a success. It's gaslighting. It's moving the goalposts. It's all those great buzzwords that you have. I don't, it's not so much the sentiment, right? He can certainly be positive and optimistic, and there are things to be optimistic about going into that tournament. The Dayton game, certainly the Richmond game stunk ass, but like I guess, the VCU game at home, sure, we looked better. We looked fine. But I don't know how you can say that the last 2 weeks you saw a buy-in that gave you any indication that this team was going to do anything but crash out of this tournament. I think to try to tell Billiken fans that, there is a buy-in, that things are looking up is Pollyanna. It's bullshit. It's a flat out story. And I don't like being lied to, and I don't like, and I'm the most passionate one of the most passionate Billiken fans you'll ever see. And when you add those two things together, I get upset and I get frustrated, and it's just, come out and say, look, I can write you a better PR statement in 5 minutes, and I have no history in PR. Like, it's literally, Travis is our coach. We're heading in this tournament. It's been a rocky season. The results haven't been there quite yet, but Travis Ford's teams play well down the stretch. We've been good in the A10 tournament. We've always put on good performances, and we're hopeful that things are going to turn around going in this tournament. Something like that. You don't, like, you're literally pigeonholing yourself into having to walk back. If you might have, don't put out a statement that you could have to walk back.
I think all of that is true. And there's a couple more points that I'll layer onto that because we're both on the same side of this issue. I think that's pretty clear to people by now.
And again, it's not about retaining Travis Ford. We are specifically in this moment talking about what Chris May said to the media.
Yes, right. And I think if we want to be on, if we want total honesty, his quote may have been something more like, "We signed an extension in the spring of 2021, and contracts in college basketball are generally 5 years. And if you've kind of seen some of the stuff that's gone out on Twitter or some of the stuff that's come out in our 990s or whatever, that Travis Ford's making about $2.5 million a year. Quick and dirty math. He's got 3 years left at $2.5 million a year. That's $7.5 million. And we don't have the will or the money right now to eat that and pay another high level coach on top of that." Right.
And I think, and finish it off with, "That's on me. I signed the extension."
But also, like, the people, the group of people the small group of people at SLU who can do something about this aren't particularly motivated to do that right now for one reason or another. They either believe in the vision, the long-term vision, they like him too much, they're not upset enough about where we are. And you and I don't have the kind of money to make whatever we want at an athletic program happen. Nor do a lot of other people, the rank and file season ticket holders, for example. But the people who really do just aren't there right now. And that's where we are. No athletic director is going to say that. But the problem is, fans today are savvy enough to kind of know that, right? Like, if they're really looking into the situation, they kind of know all that. They kind of know that's what's going on. And if we're at a private school, so it's not as easy to find, but there are tweets by Stu Durando to confirm that's when he signed this, right? 2 years ago is when he signed the extension. And that's kind of what we're looking at right now. We're just not we're not an SEC football team. We're not eating $7.5 million. Instead, they've got the Billiken Victory Fund set up. They're going to go all in on this round of the portal, and they're going to try and make some noise there. And along with the freshmen and the young guys who didn't play much this year, incoming players, going to try and make a little noise next year and in the next 2 years and see what happens. But look, like, that's what it is. Like if May could really be frank, maybe he just wants to say, my hands are tied right now. Like, I don't have the budget. I don't have the institution behind me to eat $7.5 million and then go pay somebody else over $2 million a year. It's just not how it works. I'm stuck. This is what it is.
And on some level, like, of course, there's no no chance he's gonna say that. But again,
No,
no
no,
nuance, man, nuance. Don't
sure.
lie to your hardcore fans, the people that are dying day in, day out, that are paying to go to Brooklyn, that are paying to go to MTEs during the season, not paying to go to the postseason because we're not in the goddamn postseason, are we?
Well, and that's something that I've thought of here, Zach, is because like we now know like we're paying more than any other A10 school on our coach, right? We're spending big on facilities. We've got a basketball arena that's still up there with the best in the conference, or quite frankly, a lot of the best around the country. We've just invested $20 million in a new facility, all privately funded, for the entire athletic program. We are spending big on athletics and seeing a very low ROI in the premier program, the revenue program, the men's basketball program. And I don't know how much longer you can do that, because we are not in a power conference that throws off a lot of TV revenue. Like if you're in this kind of conference, you have to keep making the tournament in order to really make the numbers work to sustain this. If not, it's a lot of people throwing good money after bad, and I don't want to see that anymore. I want to see this turn around. I would be happy if Travis is the guy to do that, right? Probably the best argument we saw in terms of why you keep him around for a couple more years, other than just the pure numbers of the money, is somebody made the point that it wasn't until year 7 or so that Randy Bennett really got St. Mary's going, right? And by year 8 or 9, they were back in the tournament regularly, and they were winning 25 games a season regularly and making the tournament more often than they've missed it since then. This was year 7. This was supposed to be our big season. It didn't really pan out. I don't think next year is the kind of season that we're going to shock the world or anything like that. It's a rebuild. We don't know yet what we're going to do in the portal. But so it's a lukewarm argument, but it's at least something. Like, there is something to be said at a program at our level of giving a coach a couple cycles, a longer time to build. Maybe that's it. Maybe there's something to that. And I don't think we really have a choice but to see if that's the case.
I think cycles go a lot quicker. I certainly don't think we're in a Rick Majerus rebuild scenario. That's not a thing anymore. Well, it's a thing only if the coach is, a McKillop.
Well, and also if he has the support of the department, the institution, the boosters, everybody around the program to say, I need 3 years to get my guys where they need to be in order to keep this thing going, in that kind of direction. But I don't think Travis is that guy. He's not that. That's not his style.
Yeah, no, speaking of style, I think we definitely need to get into what we want to see going forward out of this program, not just as far as like results, but kind of, I think there's a lot to be said, and we said it on the spaces. But just a change in culture, going back to that culture that Goodwin, French, Bess kind of instituted here, and we've kind of gotten away from. I want to circle back. Did we talk much about the coach, the kind of the hiring philosophy and how it's different? Have we actually talked about it on the show? Because I've gotten into it in other circles, like in other.
No, but I think that's a good point, and I don't want to end this segment before we go there.
Yeah, so I want to talk about kind of the way that Chris May has gone about his hiring and his public statements, because it always feels like he talks about culture. Culture is the thing. Gratitude is a huge favorite buzzword of Chris May. Gratitude, gratitude, gratitude. And when he talks about his hirings, he talks about, you bring in Rebecca Tillett, who comes with major culture. That's her thing, the mindfulness, the arete. I think I said that wrong. Excellence at everything. What is it? Excellent at any pursuit. You talk about Katie Shields, who is a stone cold killer as a head coach. She does not give a shit. She is going to run over any team that gets in her Billiken's way, especially in conference. Kalish has an impeccable vision and by impeccable, I mean, he has a clear vision of what the St. Louis men's soccer team should look like. And I said it last night. It's recruit heavy locally, they get the best players locally, and then for special players, go out of town. Andrea Beatty has already brought in I cannot say his name, has brought in assistants that, have a clear culture that they're trying to implement. And then you've got Travis Ford, and you've got Chris May's comments on Travis Ford. He mentioned specifically Chris May has proven that he can bring in a level of talent that could compete in the Atlantic, or well, I don't know, whatever he said. He's talking about talent. He's specifically zeroing in on talent, which is the complete opposite. Culture first, talent second. And I just don't understand why that double standard or that kind of hypocrisy or whatever you want to call it.
Well, I mean, and that's again, right, a missed opportunity with the PR side of it. Like you just said, like how you could rewrite it. He can say culture. He can hammer that point as in terms of retaining it. Travis fits our vision. Travis fits our culture. We're in lockstep with our boosters. Yes, we're disappointed in these results, but we believe in the long-term culture. Like, there's no reason he had to leave that out. And it's also
people would have roasted him still, but they would have roasted him on factual basis, right?
Yeah.
Like you could say easily that, Travis Ford has clearly never been that guy to get over the hump again.
Yeah.
You can say that, but at least you're sticking to your guns on culture. You're sticking to your guns on, and I still would have roasted him because the culture hasn't been there.
But it's also like, if you're going to make the point about talent, I'm having a hard time swallowing that right now when I've just seen our quote unquote talent get their butts kicked by the top couple teams in this conference. VCU 3 times, seeing them lose non-conference games to actually really talented teams, Maryland by 30, Iona by almost 30. Some of the other teams that Auburn, a very talented team, coughed one up against them. Like I too many times I've watched our talent get beaten by teams that, to my eye, look more talented. So I don't think you can say, well, he's got the talent if that I'm watching us play teams that seem to be faster, more energetic, more athletic, higher scoring, whatever you want to call it. For a team that didn't play with a whole lot of identity this season, I'm sort of scratching my head as to how we have this reputation as having so much talent, because I just don't see it.
Right. And I want to talk about, again, Chris May. We've gone over this when it comes to volleyball, right? We talked a lot about coaches and recently let go or fired coaches by Chris May. Mike McGinty, men's soccer, was 81, 56, and 14, 2 regular season championships, 2 A10 tourney championships, 4 NCAA bids, and 4 NCAA wins. I'm pretty sure of this list that I created, he is the least tenured coach to be like, I believe it was probably, I want to say 7 or 8 seasons for Mike McGinty. And it was a quick hook for him. You look at women's basketball, Lisa Stone, 302 and 164. I don't know if that's actually right or I screwed that up again. Like
no, I think it's more like 164 and like 138 or something like that. I think if it's the column shift thing there, like I think 302 is the total number of games she would have coached.
Okay.
So she won, she was a little over 500, right? She won 164 out of 302.
1 regular season championship, 0 A10 tourney championship, 0 NCAA bids, 0 NCAA wins, 3 WNIT bids, 3 WNIT wins. Kent Miller was 181 and 166 as volleyball coach. I got that one right. 0 A10 regular season championships, 0 NCAA or 0 A10 tourney championships, 0 NCAA bids, and 0 NCAA wins. Now you get to Travis Ford, 133 and 89, 0 A10 regular season championships, 1 A10 tournament championship, 1 NCAA bid, 0 for 2 in NCAA tournament games, 2 NIT bids, and 0 NIT wins. Pete, I would say that it is almost identical in a lot of what the A10 record is almost identical to Lisa Stone. In a lot of ways. I would say that, with Lisa Stone and Kent Miller, it took 10 years for the change to be made. With McGinty, it was more like 7 or 8. Travis Ford, I see us getting to 10 years if that's what he gave Lisa Stone.
Well, and keep in mind the contract too. I think his current contract would get him to 10. Would he get all the way to 10 if we had 2 more bad years? I don't think so.
No.
Look, next year it's going to be a whole new roster, so it's just hard to say. But yeah, I mean, the thing that really bothers me, Zach, is we think of SLU in the A10, and you don't think there are 4 programs better than us.
No.
That should be performing better than us.
Correct.
We should be an absolute lock as a top 4 team every year. And yet we've never had higher than a 4 seed in the A10 tournament since he's been here. That to me is bothersome, because if I see SLU on the 4 line, I think that's a little underachieving. I think we got to be top 3 every year, and we have to be top 1 sometimes. Not every year. Sometimes VCU is going to be better. Sometimes Dayton's going to be better. Every once in a while, somebody else is going to surprise us, but we've got to be a top 3 team pretty much every year. And that's what really, that's kind of what really bothers me, is that 4 has been the ceiling for this team. And yeah, I know there's tiebreakers and we were tied for second in the standings, but it's like, no, we're a 4 seed in the tournament because we've lost to the other teams in the top 4. That's what really gets to me as much as anything else. We have to be in that position where we're at the top of this conference every year.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. I mean, you're looking at, I think on a lot of levels, what Lisa Stone accomplished in 10 years was equal to, if not better than, anything that Travis Ford has accomplished. You look at those regular season records, you look at those A10 records, those A10 finishes. To me, that speaks way more volume for a program building performance than anything that we've seen out of Travis. I mean, sure, that A10 tourney run was a lot of fun. Getting bombed and thrown out of a bar in San Jose was fun. Actually, it wasn't my fault. I got bumped in by a Virginia Tech fan, but anyway.
I don't want to pass up that Lisa Stone point without saying she took over a program that had never done anything before.
Correct.
Like when Travis Ford took over, yeah, Jim Cruz had dragged the program into the dumpster, but like we were only 3 years removed from a very, very good team, a team that was a top 10 team for a moment there, like a team that was getting 4 and 5 seeds in the tournament for a couple of years there. Like we were not far removed from that. So we had a very recent example of what could be done at that program. Whereas Lisa Stone, when she took over, she took that program to records that it had never seen before. 25 wins in back-to-back seasons. Right. That's nothing that SLU women had ever seen before.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that, I think that basically, I think if you're a Billiken fan right now, you're looking at the Travis Ford contract situation, and I think you're hoping that, Travis can keep us afloat, I guess. To me, Chris May's, comments versus his actions the past 10 years at the helm of the athletic department. To me, I mean, honestly, I would read that Travis Ford's on thin ice, but he's not going anywhere this year. And I think you just gotta hope that he does not tank the program. And I don't see that happening necessarily. It's going to be not fun. And we probably won't win a whole hell of a lot, or win up to standards. But I think the next couple of seasons are going to be very interesting.
Yeah.
I think there's a couple coaching moves right now that you would, that aren't going to be around, that level that you could get. So I think there's something to be said about making it right now. But again, if you don't have the money, you don't have the money, right? Like, okay, it's fine. It's fine. I'm okay with that.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think their thought is we can compete in the portal this year and we can be where we need to be a top A10 team. I think that's the thought. That's the vision. I want to see that in practice. I want to see that happen. I'm fine with a roster refresh right now. I think for whatever reason, this group just didn't work out for us, and that's a shame because we had much higher expectations. But I'm fine with building a new core and building around that and going from there. And we need to construct the roster differently. And I'm excited to see what happens. I'm a little, there's a little part of me that is excited to go into a year without this burden of expectations. 21-12 is not a bad record, but in the context of this season, it's really disappointing. So yeah, let's see what happens. I'm ready to be excited again about it. It's just going to take a little time.
Yeah, I think you're onto something there. I'm actually looking forward to Brock Weiss, Sion Medley hopping on campus, and I think this absolutely has to be a defense first program. I think you look at the A10 this year, the two teams that made it, the three teams that finished above us, all hung their hats on aggressive. Well, two of them hung their hats on aggressive defense, and Dayton couldn't do anything on the offensive end to save their life, but their defense carried them the entire way. So yeah, no.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, yeah, we're ready. We're ready to move on. It's tough to see Dayton and VCU playing in a final without you. That's where we want to be. We don't want to be 21-12, done on March 11th and nowhere to go. It's not a great place.
Yep. Time to bring back the real Team Blue, Pete, not the Team Blue it from this past season.
I also saw Team Blue, just blue, BLEW.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Team Blue. What? No. Oh God. Pete, let's, what helps drown the sorrows of a loss?
I think I do.
Yeah, it's one of the fine products you can get over at 2 Men in a Garden.
Yeah, and this week I did that thing again where I take the hot and the screaming hot.
This is the adult version of going to McDonald's and getting all the sodas at once.
A suicide, we used to call it, and it would always be a really unappealing brown color. But in this case, what I do is I'd say I've got like a tall glass, like a cylindrical thing, and it fits 2 jars, right? Yeah, I could put both jars in. I hit them with an immersion blender, and what comes out is it's my sweet spot. Hotter than hot, not as hot as screaming hot, a little smoother than the normal texture, and I've got 2 jars of it, and it's my happy place. And you know what? I took some photos. I'll put them on our Instagram to kind of show you the method behind the madness. It's pretty simple. If you
become the next Brian Lagerstrom via the Midtown Madness cooking segment, coming to a YouTube channel near you next week.
We're announcing our spinoff. But it really is blending 2 jars of salsa that are already made. And if you can't do this, then you don't belong in a kitchen. So I will throw it up on our Instagram because it's kind of fun, but it's it's easy and it's really good. And if it's too hot, do hot and medium, that I think that's a good spot too. Or maybe get creative, throw a fruit flavor in there, get out there.
Make sure you go check out Two Men in the Garden and all their products, either in stores or online at twomeninthegarden.com. Pete, do your best like SEC the end of a commercial where they give the warning, like the really fast talker at the end.
The
Do that.
disclaimer.
Yeah, do that, but for all conference honors, because I really don't give a shit.
That was always one of my favorite jokes on The Simpsons is the low disclaimer voice immediately following.
Yes.
Like I guarantee it, not a guarantee, like really quickly just sliding that in there. But yeah, Yuri Collins was named a first team and all defensive team, all conference. He's also one of 5 finalists for the Bob Cousy Award for the nation's best point guard. Gibson Jimerson made the second team and the all academic team. So those were our representatives on the all conference teams this year. But Zach, I think at this point, I'm more interested in looking at the future.
Mm-hmm.
And SLU has put out a couple offers recently that I'm kind of excited about. Especially this first one so far.
You had me at 6'8" forward from Belgium, Pete.
Big Belgian. He's exciting. Matthew Hodge is his name. He's a 2024 player. So he's a junior right now, and he's playing high school ball for St. Rose in New Jersey. New Jersey's got a bunch of Catholic powerhouse schools. St. Benedict's is one that SLU has recruited before. But this kid, he's 6'8". He's got good size.
Don't go through New Jersey without mentioning my favorite New Jerseyan, Anthony Drea.
Anthony Drea. He played at
by the way,
St.
just
Anthony.
just replied to our tweet about watching video from 11 to 14 Billikens versus VCU. He said, was it the game? Second half started rough and went downhill fast.
He's not wrong. We're
really up in the entertainment value for you guys. We're just reading tweets to you.
By the way, shout out to Anthony. I think they won his high school team won. It's sectional. Yeah, they advanced in the playoffs. So I know he won something last week. Sectionals, or I don't know. It's different in every state, but regardless.
Let's talk about this Belgian.
The big Belgian, he's 6'8". He's good size, versatility. He's a smart player, really understands the game well. He's a good passer, puts it on the floor. He can shoot from outside. So he's got a lot of those kind of modern Euro attributes, but he's also really tough and competitive. And I like that, to see that in a highlight video as a kid who will, not just dunk it, but like kind of let the defender know, like you had that coming, or set a strong screen, or like there are the things that kind of make it into a highlight video that not everybody does. But one of the reasons he's got a little bit more of that, his dad, Odell, scored over 2,000 points at Old Dominion before playing and coaching 20 years in Belgium. So he settled down there, obviously had his kids there and everything like that. But they do have a guy, their dad played in like the 90s version of American, college ball. So he's got some of that nastiness in him too. And I like that. And it's also worth mentioning that his brother is a D1 recruit. He's 2 years younger, so he's only a freshman and plays on varsity with him. He's going to be one to keep an eye on. So the only other teams that have offered so far are Old Dominion, Maryland, and Virginia Tech. But he's going to be playing his AAU ball with PSA Cardinals, which produce like Hassan French, for example, New York area program. So he's going to get a lot more attention this AAU season. So SLU really needs to stay involved here. The other recruit that we sent an offer out to in the last couple of weeks is named Kareem Stagg, with 2 G's like the whiskey. 2025, like I said, he's a year behind Hodge. So he's only a sophomore right now, but he's 6'8" as well. And he is a load. I mean, like when you watch him play, he's as big and tough and strong and explosive as a college player already, but he's only a sophomore. He goes to Oscar Smith High School in Chesapeake, Virginia, down in like the, Virginia Beach, Hampton kind of area, Newport News. And he runs with Boo Williams AAU, which is another Nike EYBL AAU team. It's a pretty rare combination of size and skill and power and athleticism he's got at that age. And he's going to be an exciting one to track. Still a little raw, but he's going to be a power conference recruit really soon. His only other offers right now are Hampton, Radford, Norfolk State, so pretty regional to where he's at. But look for him to blow up this year as well. And I'm going to be really interested to see if SLU can stay involved there. So we're always keeping an eye on recruiting, always keeping an eye on the future. And it's portal season. So there's about 1,800 guys about to type out. With that being said, and they're going to put their names in the portal, and we're going to be watching whoever SLU gets into contact with.
By the way, he and I have something in common. We're both stag often. Yeah. No. Also, homeboy Matthew Hodge looks like that Jason kid that was the manager that went and played in a senior night for his high school and hit like 7 3-pointers. You remember that?
Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah, that's who Matthew Hodge looks like. I'm sorry, Matthew. And I'm sorry, kid who played high school basketball. Pete, let's talk about this research assignment that nobody did. You all fail. You all get an incomplete on this one.
Although, to be fair, we failed too, because we didn't put this in print. And normally when we put it in Twitter and Billikens.com and everywhere
that says something to me, Pete.
We do. Normally
people don't want to listen to us. Yeah, we still don't have an answer yet. And the way baseball is going, we may have to re-ask this question at the end of the spring. Has an A10 athletics program held 3 team championships at once? So basketball, soccer, baseball,
volleyball,
field hockey
in the same academic year.
Yes, in the same academic year.
Not calendar, but academic year.
Right, correct. Currently the Billikens. Has any A10 team held 3 team championships at once prior to the Billikens this year, since we won men's and women's soccer and women's basketball?
Someone somewhere has a spreadsheet. We just need to find it.
Yes. Brian Kunderman, I'm sure, has that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no answer yet. We're going to post it this time. And hopefully someone can figure it out before the women take on Tennessee. Let's run through baseball. Speaking of teams that are playing, I mean, this team is scorching hot, Pete. And yes, I know the competition not quite there, but again, A10 baseball competition is not all that great.
All you can do is beat the teams on your schedule.
Yes, and I think for as much as we got excited about how basketball scheduled difficult, they gave them the notice like schedule easier. And if that's what the baseball team is doing here, more power to them. We had Hendo on and he talked about how slow starts have been this team's Achilles heel because they're a northern team, because they get a later start. But this season start has been anything but slow. 10 straight wins now, Pete?
Yep. Since the Marshall sweep to open the season, they have won 10 straight.
14-9 win at Lindenwood on Tuesday the 7th. Ethan Sitzman went 4 for 6, drove in 5 runs to lead SLU to its 8th straight win. Patrick Closey also went 4 of 6 with 2 RBIs and 3 runs. Lindenwood got close, not quite there, made it 8-7 after 7, but then SLU scored 6 more in the last 2 innings to close the game out. Colby Downard got the win. Pete, the 3-game series versus Northwestern this weekend was originally supposed to be a game on Friday and a doubleheader Saturday, but became a doubleheader on Friday as Saturday was canceled due to weather. Give us game 1 and 2 scores. Big offensive games for the Billikens in this one.
16-6 in game 1 and 14-5 in game 2. So 30 runs in 2 games. And that's pretty consistent with the 14 at Lindenwood too. I mean, like they're piling it up lately. Everyone in SLU's lineup got a hit in this first game. Cole Smith went 4 for 5 with 3 runs, a homer, and 6 RBIs. 6 RBIs, man. Ethan Sitzman, 3 for 4 with 2 runs. Tyler Fogarty crossed the plate 3 times, and then Patrick Closey homered again. Henry Littman gave up 4 runs in 4 innings, and Caleb Thompson ended up with the win in 1 2/3 innings of relief. In game 2, 14-5.
I'm so mad you get to talk about this one. This is insane.
This is insane. Northwestern got out to a 3-0 lead in this one. In the first, they hit a 3-run home run, and then SLU got one back, bottom of the first, one more in the third, and then they broke it open with 6 in the fourth. Patrick Closey again, Zach, 4 of 5, 3 home runs in a game, 4 in a doubleheader if you're keeping score. 4 runs, 7 RBIs. That ties a program record for home runs in one game. And his other hit, of course, was a triple. Not quite as spread out as the effort as we saw in game 1. Most of the hits came from 3 guys. Austin Newegg went 3 of 4 with 2 runs and 3 RBIs. And then Colin Bergman went 3 of 4 with 3 runs and 2 RBIs. So it was really those two and Closey who got it done here. But man, oh man, the bats came alive this week. Next up, they're going to go to Southern Indiana on the 14th, and then a weekend series against Lamar on the 17th through the 19th.
With Closey raking this weekend, I wanted to just kind of throw out, he's the sophomore. He redshirted at Purdue 2021 and then played his redshirt freshman year at Purdue, academic all Big Ten. Only appeared in 10 games with 1 start. He only had 8 at-bats, scoring 4 runs. So, hey, I mean, that's efficient, I guess.
You wonder if he's one of those guys. Remember Hendo talking about there are guys who hardly appeared at all and at power schools who want to transfer up or whatever.
Yeah.
I guess that's not the case here, right? Like he talks to a lot of other guys who appeared that much at like Middle Tennessee or smaller programs or whatever, and they want to transfer up. But here's a guy who didn't really get a shot at Purdue, transfers down a level, and now he's mopping up.
Yeah, it's a Chaminade product, and coming out of high school, he was ranked as Missouri's number 2 outfielder in his class. So exciting start for the Billikens. As you mentioned, they've got 1 against Indiana and 3 against Lamar this weekend. Softball, Pete, run us down the Wednesday game against SIUE.
It was a 6-5 loss at SIUE, and SLU broke a scoreless tie with a 5-run 5th inning, but then SIUE gets 1 back in the 6th, then added 5 more to win in the bottom of the 7th, which is brutal way to lose. Chloe Wendling went the distance and tied her career high with 8 strikeouts, but she just couldn't close it out. She actually got to within 1 out of escaping that last inning. And then Natalie Sullivan homered for SLU. Chloe Ryan went 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs, but just not quite enough as they let that one slip away.
Interesting event this weekend. St. Louis opening round robin, which is kind of a fun name, and I'm assuming that you just bring in. I don't even know. I don't understand. It's opening round robin, but you play NIU twice. I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, three teams, and everybody plays everybody twice, right?
Oh, I see Bradley in there twice. Sorry. They were sandwiched in the notes. 8-6 win versus Bradley on the 11th. Wendling gets the win. Cammie Newbanks, 2 for 3. Jocelyn Abbott, 2 for 2. A lot of good small ball stuff in a team effort, single stolen bases, stringing stuff together to get the 8-6 win. 3-1 loss versus Northern Illinois on the 11th. NIU, all 3 runs in the 4th. Billikens get 1 back in the 6th on a 2-out double from Kowalik. Couldn't muster anything else at the plate. Only 2 hits in this game were credited to Kowalik. Kelly Hanner got the loss. That's a pitcher we had not seen yet, I do believe. And Taylor Hockman threw 3 innings of scoreless relief. However, the Billikens turn around the next day and beat NIU 4-1 with Wendling on the mound. Etling and forget
it's
it.
It's a
Jane Konecki each batted in 2 runs. And then, of course, turn right around and lose to Bradley. Hockman and Callie Hanner split this one in half. Hanner taking the loss after giving up 2 in the 6th. Natalie Sullivan was 2 for 4 with a run. Kowalik and Konecki drove in SLU's runs. Kentucky on the 14th, that's Tuesday, and then their first A10 series against St. Bonaventure. That's a big name to be playing at the Billiken Sports Center.
A big name to be playing?
Yeah, Kentucky.
Oh, I was going to say, I don't think Bonaventure is the women's softball powerhouse here. But yeah, Kentucky coming up to play at SLU. It's just a one-off, but yeah, that one impressed me too. Surprising to see that on the schedule.
Let's see. I'm trying to get a hold of their schedule because I'm interested to see how they do, but schedule, all sports. This tells me nothing. Screw it. Wait a minute, hold on. Yeah, oh, I can click that. Okay. They are currently 16-5-1 on a 5-game winning streak. They are waxing fools. They beat they lost to number 1 Oklahoma 18-0. Then 7-1. Yeah. They beat Dayton 5-4. So I mean, this could be closer than we think. Except they did wax Missouri 3 in a row. Wow.
It's going to take a lot. I mean, the SLU women are right now, I think, are
Yeah.
the opposite record of that. I think they're 6-15.
Jesus, never mind. We're gonna lose that one. Men's tennis, Pete, run us down real quick. Let him.
They won 4-0 at Southern Indiana on the 11th. Both the men and women headed out there this weekend. SLU lost number 1 doubles before taking the point by winning number 2 and 3 doubles, and then they got number 1, 2, and 3 singles to seal the win. The other 3 singles matches didn't end up getting played. Fukushima, Behun, and Leonardo all won in that order, playing 1, 2, 3. Next up, they head to Hilton Head, South Carolina, to vacation with everybody from Ohio. On March 14th to 16th to take on Georgetown College, which is in Kentucky. George Mason is in this event, and then St. Francis, Pennsylvania.
On the women's side, 7-0 win versus Western Illinois Friday, the 10th at St. Clair Tennis Club. SLU took both singles and doubles. Only one match went to 3 sets. 4-0 win at Southern Indiana. 2 and 3 doubles, as well as SLU took 2 and 3 doubles, and 1 doubles went unfinished. Singles play, SLU won 1, 3, and 4. 2 going unfinished. Elizabeth Minitsova, Fiorella Duran, and Maya Spencer all posted victories. They head to Hilton Head Island, same dates as the men, but will play Lafayette. In addition to Georgetown. Is that Georgetown of Kentucky?
Georgetown College, which is in Georgetown, Kentucky, which is just north of Lexington. I know someone who played football there. They're kind of a D3 football powerhouse.
George Mason and St. Francis, Pennsylvania. Pete, a really interesting game on the soccer side. I rarely get hyped for a spring game or a spring performance, but men's soccer loses 2-1 in a spring game versus City 2 at Herman. And Pete, just telling the score doesn't do this justice at all.
No, the SLU men scored first, actually, and from what I understand, gave them a pretty competitive game. At least that's the report we got from our sources who were there live on what ended up being kind of a cold night. But from everything I understand, SLU was right there in this one.
Yeah, no, I mean, these are guys that STL City is that are playing that are, making $500,000 a year. They're guys that played for QPR that came over that are waiting on visa issues. Thank you, Carter Chapley, for those 2 tidbits of information. And I think the coaches were happy with what they saw. I think this team is going to be really, really good, Pete.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a lot of talent coming in. I mean, they recently had their number 1 recruiting class ranking reiterated, which includes transfers. It's a big class. It's a really balanced class. They don't necessarily have like the all 5 stars, to put it in basketball terms, but it's really deep. It's kind of what they need. And I expect this team to be the toast of the league again, and can't wait for fall.
Absolutely. Pete, I think that's all we have for this episode. That wraps up the week in Billiken Athletics. Follow us on Twitter at Midtown Mad Pod, at Peter is a tweeter, at Zach Miller MMP, and on Instagram at Midtown Mad Pod. Still no time yet on the women's game against Tennessee. Keeping an eye on that, and keep a lookout on our Twitter. If not before that, you'll find out. We appreciate Any and all suggestions you might have for the show, our DMs are always open. Subscribe on all platforms, leave a review, preferably 5 stars. As always, Pete, go Bills.
Go Bills.